God made us to be in service to others. Let that sink in for just a moment. How might it change your perspective on being a faith-driven entrepreneur? For many of us, we're focused on pursuing our call to create. It's a personal and intimate purpose that invites us to use the gifts and talents God has given us in service to Him. And in everything we do, we want to do it with excellence. But what if we looked at this pursuit from another perspective? Instead of focusing only on what we have to offer, what if we allow the purpose of serving to drive our ideas, inspiration, and innovation? The greatest example of servant leadership is found in the Gospel of John. The disciples are gathered together in an upper room just before Jesus is arrested and put to death. Before their last meal together, Jesus does something that still echoes across time. He proceeds to wash the feet of his disciples. Never has this been done before. An esteemed rabbi kneels before his followers to serve and care for them. In this case, our Savior humbles himself before those he is about to save. Jesus' disciples hardly know what to do with this revelation, and yet the lesson is clearly articulated by Jesus. Truly, truly, I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. If you know these things, blessed are you if you do them. In effect, Christ is saying we should serve one another in honor to the one who served us with his very life. That is service with utmost excellence. If you're in America, you may think of the company Grab as the Uber of Southeast Asia. Of course, if you live in Southeast Asia, Uber is the Grab of America. Whatever way you look at it, with 198 million downloads of the app, 9 million drivers in 352 cities in 8 countries, and a $14 billion valuation, Anthony Tan and Grab are running circles around the ride-sharing industry. They have put in the palm of our hands a super app that helps with deliveries, banking, and so many other services. Let's watch.
I remember I had to describe this in the business plan competition. We had one slide showing there were cases of very unfortunate rape, of sexual harassment, certain taxi drivers putting a sleep aid on the aircon so that the passenger will fall asleep.
Like many great entrepreneurs, he was motivated to solve a problem and was really focused on more of a social enterprise.
I met Hui Ling, my co-founder, and we're exploring a lot of cases. Some of them were actually Southeast Asian cases about helping people at the base of the pyramid while creating long-term, sustainable, profitable business. And that's when we said, hey, Ling and I said, one of the biggest problems is safety. Safety in the daily commute for women and children.
And as he waded in after graduating and going back to Kuala Lumpur, where he was from, he realized that as Uber was taking off, there was a way to contextualize that same solution that was solving problems elsewhere in the world, but to contextualize it in a little bit different way in Southeast Asia. And that's really what gave birth to Grab.
Grab is a super app that provides services across ride-hailing, food delivery, grocery, and financial services.
My first encounter actually with Anthony is that he solved my problem. I was there living with my wife and our 3 young kids. We didn't have a car. We were living in the middle of Kuala Lumpur. And the experience that Brooke and the kids had trying to take taxis to transport around the city or to the airport or to wherever was horrific. They got dropped off in the middle of nowhere. They'd get, haggled every time they got in a cab on what the fare was going to be. Nobody wanted to run on the meter. And Anthony solved that problem for our family. And as I dug into what is this thing that we're using that's actually kind of like Uber but different, that helped me understand that oh my gosh, there's actually a believer who's building this company that's actually benefiting our family in some extraordinary ways.
So every service we do, whether it's ride-hailing, whether it's food delivery, whether it's grocery delivery, whether it's loans or lending services, whether it's deposit micro savings, every one of this you can see it empowers the bottom of the pyramid to anyone and everyone in between. So today we empower over 9 million everyday entrepreneurs, from drivers to merchants. Some we make up 100% of their daily earnings, some we make up 20-30% of their daily earnings. all across the region.
Most of us are consumers, but just think about the millions of merchants or micro entrepreneurs that rely on Grab every single day for every part of their life, including their livelihood.
That was our entire thesis, was we came from many governments in the region that would give out aid, handouts. I remember when Ling and I first trained our first set of drivers. They've never seen a smartphone before. I talked to them, I said, look, you just pay $1 a day to us. We will let you have this smartphone and they could earn an income. And I remember it was the first time this concept of, we're not gonna give you an aid, we're gonna give you a fishing rod to help you fish and feed their family through their earnings as a driver. And they did it themselves, and that gave them self-pride and self-respect. It's something I don't think handouts can do. Drivers in this region are a subset of 60% of the world's population, which is bottom of the pyramid. These are the largest consumers of the world. They are the backbone of Southeast Asian economy. So aiming and serving this vulnerable group of doing good and uplifting them actually builds a sustainable, profitable business.
I think one of the things that Anthony realized in the process of giving birth to Grab was that in order for him to have the maximum impact that he could have across the entire region and to employ millions of drivers as he now employs, he really needed to think about a market-based solution that was sustainable, that didn't require people to write checks every year. He was really focused on a business that could be sustainable across the region and positioned to scale.
To be a Christ-centered leader, you are expected to do excellent work. That is in the word. This idea or this fallacy, I would say a myth, that by doing good, you actually deliver below returns. In fact, I would argue and I strongly believe in the total opposite. Today, our whole business model has been serving the underserved, whether it's women and children who needed safety. We've built a ride-hailing, very profitable business. But how did it start? Because we founded on serving the underserved. Because we had to figure a way how to make money by serving, and I'll tell you it's hard to serve the underserved, to serve the underbanked, and make money. You had to invent. You had to move the efficiency frontier or the productivity frontier. But how do you shift the frontier is by invention, by reinvention, by innovation. So it forces you to invent.
And they were creating an experience in a market that today feels like as common as, drinking water, when at the time, it's like people said, oh, why? I wouldn't need to use an app to call a taxi. I can just call this number. I've been doing that for 20 years, right? They have to change behavior. And they did so at rapid speed.
We've become customers' number one choice by staying close to the ground. Just yesterday, I was talking to the driver. I was saying, hey, why do you have another app? Tell me why. And after that, I called my CPO after that and then said, hey, let's brainstorm finding ways how to figure a way how to gain more loyalty from drivers like these. At a group level, every new grabber who comes in has to do onboarding. Onboarding means immersion to ground truths, meaning go down to the ground, go and deliver food yourself. Go and ride with a driver partner if you can't drive yourself. Go and be a merchant, sit beside a merchant and operate the merchant app yourself. So that orientation, that onboarding helps create empathy for the customer, for the merchant, for our customer service agents.
Anthony has incredible grit and belief in what he is doing. I mean, his entire body, his entire being is that belief in the value he can create for millions of people, the livelihood that his platform can create for millions and potentially billions of people in the future.
The connotation that we all have in our minds when you think about a CEO comes through really quickly. Within 30 seconds of meeting Anthony, I knew I wanted to invest. What Anthony communicated was both an extraordinary level of confidence and competence, and also what we needed to do together, what the us was in Grab, and that sense of something that was way beyond what Anthony, as impressive as he was, but way beyond what he could do individually. That was contagious, and that allowed him to aggregate a level of talent in that company that for us as an investor, it's the least diligence I've ever done on any of our investments.
When we went public, it sent a world statement. And I remember going, I kept looking up. I was just pointing up, look up, folks. It's all him. I didn't do this. 100% him. The significance is that how a company that was founded in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, could take world stage on a US public stock exchange, all took place in a way whereby we honored him in all that we did. And we have shown that you can be in this world but not of this world, and yet do his work and yet build a great business that has affected positively to nearly 500 cities across Southeast Asia, in a region that most people, when I first went to college in the US, didn't know where it was. And it shows you the potential of entrepreneurship. It shows you the potential of the region and how our micro entrepreneurs and everyday entrepreneurs are taking world stage. But it also shows you that following God's word can create massive world-changing impact.
Grab was created to solve a problem in society. Launched during the Harvard Business School Project Pitch Competition for women who didn't feel safe getting home at night, Grab also seeks to improve the lives of drivers. It has since become one of Southeast Asia's earliest unicorns and has impacted millions of lives across the region. At its core, Grab was created to serve others. The purpose is driving innovation and technology, not the other way around. Perhaps the reason this super app has performed the way it has less to do with an idea and more to do with its founders tapping into us being hardwired to serve one another. As his followers, we are to emulate Christ, serving one another in loneliness of heart and mind, seeking to build one another up in humility and love. When we neglect to serve others, we go against God's very nature within us. Those who pursue a servant's heart will be greatly blessed to know what it's like to love God and love one another. Talk about this session in your group and how it relates to the journey you're on. Open yourselves up to learning from one another. Be transparent and honest with each other. What you get out of this time together will only be as enriching and life-giving as what you put into it. See you next time.